Stronghold Crusader 2 guide. This is a guide that I wrote for Stronghold Crusader 2. We're going to start from the beginning. First of all, this is a wall structure that I built. I believe the keep is on the left, and I used buildings such as the barracks and the armory and a bunch of houses to build a makeshift wall. It actually worked out really well. These guys had a lot of trouble dealing with this. However, they can shoot through the buildings, so you might want to stagger some of the buildings. This is something called a hoarding. It can protect people behind it. And in some cases, there could be a lot of people standing behind it. I use them frequently. They do take a lot of damage, but I'd rather pay for the hoarding than have to pay to get the archers retrained again. You can place stray objects in the field. You notice there's some barricades out here in the field. What will happen is the AI will try to take the barricades down, and while they're doing that, you can attack them. You can also do a winding path, make it so that they have to walk down a winding path to get to where they are and kind of mow them down on their way. The barracks allows you to climb the stairs to the roof and connect to the walls. So this is a barracks. There is a staircase that you can climb. I believe what happened here is the guys with the gold pants and the slave drivers climbed up here. They're attacking my archers. And it can connect to the wall system, so they can leave the roof of this building. In Stronghold Crusader 2, you can heal units within a certain radius of the healer. In this case, this unit is being healed. He's got a little green circle, and he's got some things that float around him. You can also heal the Lord. There's people who have said you can't do it. In this version that I'm playing, you can. Here's an example where he is healing the Lord. Oil pot throwers are very effective. They can throw burning oil onto enemy units, even from towers, and they can damage many units at the same time, very quickly in hard-to-reach spaces. So they can stand at the top of the tower and throw down, or they're all standing right here, and they do a lot of damage. They could destroy a big crowd of people really fast. This was the first time I used them. I was really impressed. You could place ballista and other weapons on walls, and your archers can stand beneath them. You don't want the enemy to attack the stilts. You don't want the enemy to come around behind and attack the stilts. They do go after these ballista. They don't last forever. In a heated battle, they will lose hit points. Here's an example where I have a horse, a mounted unit, and I hide him behind the wall, and when the enemy attacks, I take him out, distract the enemy, and then I run him back here to get healed by one of the healers. You see how thick these walls are? They're better for defense than the towers because the amount of hit points to destroy them is really high. They can hold ballista. You can put a ton of archers over here, and you can use the hoardings. So I used to use a lot of towers, but now I only use one tower. It works out great. A wide formation is good for archers who need to be close to their targets. Square formation is good for brawling, and also units that get a proximity bonus. For example, there are knights that have a proximity bonus where you get an armored bonus for being within their proximity, and if that knight is in the middle, he's going to be able to help more people. This right here is 500 troops, which is the maximum amount that you can have. At least in terms of this mission, it was the maximum amount. You can see there's a lot of assassins. You can build walls onto the hills. You see over here, we've got all these hills over here. However, I was not able to climb up onto this area. Once they got to the top of the staircase, they would not walk over here. So it wasn't very useful. Smaller towers can be placed in front of larger towers. I've got these large towers, and then I built smaller towers and even smaller ones. The ballista is the height of the medium size tower. So you can use different size towers. I really don't think it's the right strategy, but it is good because the small tower prevents the towers behind it from getting hit by catapults. So you put a large tower, a medium tower, and a small tower, and then you put the ballista behind it, and the catapults will not be able to hit the large tower very easily. Traps can be placed in areas where enemy troops are likely to walk. I put some traps over here. Guess what the enemy did? They walked right along the wall and they went past everything. So you got to be really careful about how you place it. Storage and production should be placed between resources such as farms and mining. You want your storage to be in between for the wheat farms and the stone, and you want the bakeries, windmills to be as close to food as possible and to the granary as possible. You want everything to go the shortest distance as possible. You can build a small enclosed protected area using walls to protect farms and mining. I needed to protect this farmland. This is one of the designs I came up with. And I left an opening in the back so the enemy would come around to the back. That was a very difficult. This took me a lot of battles to figure out how to win. Catapults can do a lot of damage to walls and buildings. A small group of catapults can destroy tons of buildings very quickly. Production such as windmills, bakeries, and breweries should be placed near stockpiles to reduce the transport time. So in the stockpile, you have wheat, hops, grain, etc. You want the windmill, the bakery, and the brewer to be near the stockpile so they can pick up and drop off as quickly as possible. The market can be used to buy and sell goods automatically. You need to buy the market building. So what I do, you see I got 5,000 stone. I would automatically sell. You got to be like a minimum of 1,000. Automatically sell. And it brings in tons of cash. And I also automatically buy, so I don't have to worry about running out of food. You only got to buy a small quantity, like 20. You can view important information such as your happiness, the time it takes for a new person to arrive, using the top stat bar. It also shows how many buildings you have and how many units you have. You've got the day, gold, how many beds are filled. This bar advances based on how quickly a new person arrives. Your happiness number, your tax rate. Don't worry about the negative 52. That really doesn't mean anything. You're on tax level 5 is what it is. It reduces your happiness by 52, but happiness is still positive. In Stronghold Crusader 2, a long straight wall can be a good defensive choice if you can reach any point along the wall. So I made a long wall, and I made it straight, and my guys can walk all the way across. If I had to do it over again, I would not have put the small towers, just maybe 1 or 2 big towers. Trebuchets can fire long distances and hit enemy buildings. So I set up some trebuchets on the right, and they're hitting the buildings on the left. A statue appears when an enemy lord is defeated. Archers can fire a long distance. I have archers on the tower on the left, and they're shooting at, I believe they're enemy archers on the right. You can check the hit points of a unit by clicking on it. So I clicked on the unit on the left. This guy has low hit points. He can be removed and sent to a healer, or the healer can be brought to him. You can use farmland and mining of defeated enemies. So this enemy was defeated. I went and took over his farmland and his iron. There's a button you can hit. I don't remember which one it is. Maybe it's on the mini map. There's a button that there's something you click on, and it shows you who is the strongest and who is the weakest, how much gold they have, how many battles they've won. And you can use this to decide which enemy to attack. You want to obviously attack whoever is the weakest. For example, in this case, it's the second guy, the Caliph the Terrible. He looks like he is the weakest. Got a lot of food. Siege equipment can fire over obstacles such as hills. So I put these trebuchets on the left, and they're hitting the walls of the castle on the right. A large group of archers are very powerful. These are my archers coming in. They will just mow down the enemy. You may see workers walking over long distances through undefended areas. So these are my workers. They're coming from that farmland that I took over, and they're undefended. They're just walking across. So between battles, I would sit and watch them to make sure they made it across safely. Buildings that are not being worked or are turned off will have a Z floating above the building. You see the Z over here? This is an enemy building. I forgot. Maybe my guy is in the process of taking it out. Stone walls can be used to reduce or prevent the spread of fire. I put a stone wall going through the farmland so that if the buildings catch fire, the fire won't spread through the entire farmland. Here's more examples of buildings that are turned off and they have the Z's above them. You will need a large number of production facilities to have a good economy. This is not my game, it's another player. You can see he put down a large number of bakers and brewers around his stockpile, which is right here. You can place armored swordsmen in small choke points, to block enemy units from running through. This is the entrance. It doesn't really go anywhere, but I put these soldiers here, so when the enemy tries to run through, these guys stop them. Here's another view. And I use this wall to direct them to make it so that they definitely have to fight these swordsmen. This was the old way. The swordsmen were just kind of hiding here, but they could easily run around them. So I moved them into the little gap area. These are assassins, ninjas. They can climb the walls and go and fight. So if you see archers on enemy walls and you're like, how do I get those guys? Just send the assassins in and they'll go and they'll use ladders or whatever. They'll climb the walls and they'll go take out the archers. Keep people happy and the population will increase. Give them extra rations, religious services, and ale. And you'll kick these numbers up, and then you can raise your taxes and keep people happy. You want your tax level as high as possible. The archers on the cliff are shooting down at these people down below, and because they're on a cliff, it'll take a bit longer for the enemy to deal with them. Over here, we've got on the service Steam, you can see that there's 8,800 game reviews, mostly positive. It's an excellent game. Of everything in the Stronghold series, I recommend most Stronghold Crusader 2. So I know the nomenclature can be confusing. If you want to see more video game guides, go to cheapbooks.cc. If you have any questions or comments, please post below.